All right, I'm out filming with Tim again today. We did this a few weeks ago with the CB1000R and the XADV, sort of riding two bikes back to back. Today we've got the R9T and the Africa Twin Adventure Sport DCT. There'll be another video about that, so keep your eyes peeled. But now I'm talking about the R9T. Obviously, I love a Triumph Retro. I was riding a couple of speed twins at Jack Lilly yesterday. I've got a street twin myself. I've covered all that range extensively, but I've never ridden an R9T until BMW kindly lent me this very tasty, tricked out version. So today, I'm going to talk about how the R9T compares to the Triumph Modern Classics. And I think probably the speed twin is the closest thing to this bike. Before I get riding though, it's worth a look around this one because it does have a few extras on it. Firstly, the Option 719 billet aluminium accessory pack. So you can see that we've got reservoir covers, front engine cover, rocker covers, rear sets, pillion pegs. That looks like it might be part of the package as well. And the brake and clutch lever as well. They're all so nicely made. They do make it look a bit more bling, but I think they add a little extra special touch to it, and anything that's billet always looks high quality and just elevates it that little bit. There's also this paint job as well. You can see the 21 numbers. I thought it had been smudged, but that's by design to give it a bit of a retro look, I suppose. Personally, I love how the R9T looks with the brushed aluminium tank, but some people might prefer this. It's got a little bit more pizzazz to it. Yeah, it looks good. There's LED indicators as well, and an Akropovich slip-on twin exhaust there, which sounds, it's not too loud, but it sounds pretty nice. I mean, overall, it has to be said, it is a good looking bike. There are maybe a couple of unfinished looking bits like the fuel injectors here, but overall, the quality of the finish, the metal work that's used, things like the mudguard bracket here, the handlebar clamps and the top yoke, all of it feels really nice and on a par with, if not in some areas, better than the Triumphs. I guess, you know, with the fuel injectors, Triumph put little covers on that make them look like carburetors, and stuff like the brake lines and reservoir are exposed here, whereas there's like a sprocket cover that goes on them on stuff like the Street Twins. So maybe there's a little more thought gone into making those Triumph Retros look retro, look a bit neater. But like I say, the components on this, they do have a nice quality feel to them. Anyway, enough about superficial aesthetics. Let's go for a spin. I'm really loving the sound of this Akropovich exhaust. It's nice and bassy. I don't know what you guys think. The sound of the Boxer twin is divisive because of that drone-like noise. Some people seem to love it because it's so distinctively a, you know, a Beamer, and others, I think, say that it sounds a bit boring. So the Akropovich slip-on, if you do like it, is definitely a good thing because it enhances it. But whether you like the sound or not, it's so much fun to ride, especially on roads like this. And it handled the motorway out here easily, just purring along in 6th at 70. But it's really when you get a chance to get it up to 4,000 revs, middle of the rev range, that it starts to come alive. Wobble from the front wheel there. Yeah, it has such a different feel to it than the Triumphs, this engine. Obviously they're a twin as well, but it's a 270 crank, so it's a bit more growly and rough. This is a smooth purr, but it does have that aggression when you rev it. I keep just ragging it and then forgetting to talk. I'm having too much fun riding on this road, on this bike, that I don't really feel like I'm saying much intelligible, so I'll take it a little bit easier on this run down this road and try and get my thoughts across. So as I was saying, the Triumph has more of a rough growl to it, whereas this feels like a purr, but don't think that it doesn't have any aggression. In fact, it reminds me a lot of the Speed Twin, which I was out riding yesterday. Being a twin, the torque is usable down low, so around town it's a really easy ride. There's a fun mid-range, 4,000 revs or so. It feels really nice through the corners in that range, you know, not crazy fast, but like playful. But then if you bang it down into second, there's some top end there as well, so it really will fly if you want to get up to 60, 70. It's not going to run out of steam. Anyway, Tim's had to go on the bike, so we'll find somewhere to park up and compare notes. Once you get the revs up and it was going a bit, How long's that been there?
Oh, I don't know. You've been talking to your
sake! How did you not see it?
Well, it's black on black, man. I don't look at your crotch that often.
All right.
Probably better starting over anyway.
So we've been riding the R9T for half a day each today, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel like I've got to know it a bit more because we've done a bit of everything today. We've had to do some motorway to get out here. There's some good twisties. There's a bit of boring town riding, and it does it all fairly well. So the good stuff, I think we both agreed, brakes, suspension, and the engine are like solid, aren't they?
Yeah, just everything on it feels solid and like it works, and it's one of these bikes that you can sort of just forget and let it do its thing and just enjoy the ride.
No like crazy top end rush, no kind of weird gearbox, no harshness to the ride, no kind of unusual characteristics in the brakes. It just all works really well. It's a pleasant bike to ride. And then the engine pulls well down low in town, plenty of mid-range, and then a bit of top end. Obviously not like a inline 4 or something like that, but yeah, it goes quite nicely. All round, good fun, I think.
Yeah, there is one thing for me with the engine, or maybe it's sort of the gear changes when you are hustling.
Yeah.
And you try and get a quick, snappy gear change. Probably just because I'm not used to that style of bike. Maybe they've just changed it a bit, but the revs maybe feel a bit giddy because it just sort of when you change it, it just sort of punches you in the arse and moves you forward. Like I'm giving it a bit too much revs too early during the change, which on most other bikes works fine, but on that one,
Something to do with the clutch or the gearbox?
I'm not sure. It's almost like you've got to hesitate. I've dialed into it now where you change gear and you leave it a second before you throttle on again.
Yeah. But I think I noticed that as well. It's pretty immediate, isn't it? That's, I don't know if that's to do with the clutch. It's got, is it a single plate? So it could be that. A bit more bite, could be the clutch. But as you say, you get used to it. I think you just have to be a bit more lethargic letting the clutch out and less eager to get on the revs. But I know the exact thing that you're saying. When I set off quickly and then banged up a gear, you get a lurch because you're being too eager. Yeah. It does downshift so nicely though, especially if you get the rev matching just right. I found that really satisfying. Yeah, it's a really nice bike to ride. What do you think of the sound? We talked about that.
Yeah, I like it. It's not my favourite. I think there's other bikes that I prefer, and again, not to harp on about the firing order, but like a 270-degree firing order just changes the note a little bit more. It sounds a little bit more raspy, whereas this sounds a little bit more drony. Yeah. But it's got a nice bass to it, especially with the aftermarket exhaust on there.
But I think it's one of those things that grows on you, and at least it's distinctive, because the problem with 270s is like loads of bikes. Africa Twin we're riding today, 270-degree parallel twin, MT-07, XSR, all the Triumph Bonnevilles, you know, a lot of bikes, and those are big sellers as well, some of those. So at least it's distinctive. There aren't many bikes that sound like that, and if you heard it coming down the road, I think you'd probably know what it was.
I'm wondering whether that also contributes to it being quite a smooth engine for a twin.
Yes, I think so. It does feel pretty smooth, doesn't it? By its very nature, it's a balanced engine, yeah. I made a list on my phone of a few things throughout the day that I thought weren't brilliant about it. All right. Number one is that the clocks are on like a plastic mount, so they vibrate a little bit. Did you notice that? When you go over bump, like, not even big bumps, on a normal road surface, they're just constantly, and because with the gloss of the plastic sort of covers on the front of each clock face, you can see like a glimmer constantly moving. I just thought, at that price, a little metal speedo mount wouldn't be too much to ask, would it?
Yeah.
Indicator light isn't directional, so like when you put the indicators on, it's got a light to remind you. It's just saying that the indicator's on, and it shows 2 little arrows. Why not just show which way the indicators are going? Like that, again, that's pretty common on most bikes, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mine's got it, if that makes it common.
And then the other thing that I just thought is worth flagging up is like it's got the option 719 rear sets on it, which bring the feet back and up a bit, but obviously there's no change to the handlebar position, so you end up with something that feels like the FTR 1200, which is something that I commented on straight away when I got on that bike, that you feel like it's a sports bike in the leg position, it's a naked kind of retro in the arm position, and you end up a bit like I was just saying, like a frog.
I know what you mean, really kind of jockeyed up on it.
Yeah.
Because your arms are back into you and your legs are tucked back as well.
Obviously it felt weird getting off the Africa Twin and then feeling like that. But then as the day wore on, you start to appreciate it, because when you get some twistier roads like this, you don't mind the legs being tucked up a bit. Hello, mate. And the seating position's good as well. You can move your bum about a bit, get further back, tuck down a bit. But also, it's still comfortable all day because you're still like that.
Yeah, pretty much.
I must say though, it looks awesome. We got compliments on it, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Outside a little shop that I went in for some lunch, I got a cheese and onion pasty and a peanut Reese's bar.
Nice.
Pretty good.
And I got complimented on the bike that I was standing next to, so he assumed it was mine.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
He didn't know they were press bikes. He just said, fuck the Africa Twin, I'd take that one, which was a weird thing to say.
Especially if you've just dropped like 16 to 18 grand on it.
Yeah, he didn't know it wasn't mine. It could have really upset me. But I think it is eye-catching, especially with that paint, especially with the option 719 pack. And you know what? To be honest, anyway, it's a great-looking bike. I think
it's just standard. Do that, like the brushed alley on the standard version.
That's what I said earlier when I was doing my intro.
Nice.
I think I prefer that brushed aluminium tank, but certainly that paint job will catch the eye of anybody who's walking past the corner shop. But ultimately, the question that I posed at like the beginning of the day was, and what most people that are subscribed to my channel want to know is, does it compare to a Triumph, and would I or you prefer this to something like, I think the Speed Twin. It's 1200, it's similar amount of power, delivers it similarly, slightly better suspension, it's got a monoshock and upside down forks. They don't do an R version of the Speed Twin yet, so it's a bit cheaper, but let's say that they're roughly comparable.
You could go for the Pure, right? And that would maybe bring
the
it
Pure,
more.
Yeah, the Pure, the R19 Pure is similarly spec'd, right way up forks. The brakes are not as tasty as these ones, I guess. What would you say? Which one would you go for?
I'd probably go for a Triumph. Personally, I would probably go for a Triumph. I do think, though, if you went for the R9T, you're going to get more compliments and people saying, nice bike, mate, because you see less of these than you would of the Triumph. And I think there is something that just sort of stands out about that, especially with that extra custom stuff on it as well.
I was going to say the same. Once you've owned a bike for a bit, like, you always get tempted by other stuff. The grass is always greener, so having had a Street Twin for a while, anything that's different to that now feels interesting and like, oh, I'd like to try that for a while. But yeah, I do feel like the Bonnevilles are, I've ridden a lot of them, they've become quite commonplace in my life, so this is really distinctive. You know, it's definitely a BMW, it's definitely a Boxer Twin. There's something about that people like, and I can kind of see why you might go for it, just to buy something a bit different. It looks great, it goes well, it's easy to ride, it's good fun. I think I'd be quite tempted, but the Speed Twin's bloody good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I rode one yesterday that Jack Lilly had put Thruxton TFC forks on, so similarly spec to these. In fact, actually better spec than these, they're full Öhlins jobs. Thruxton are Öhlins shocks, and of course it got the brakes at the front from the Thruxton TFC as well, and that was probably comparable in spec to this, and I've got to say that was pretty damn good. So maybe as it stands I'd go for this. If Triumph brought out a Speed Twin R, I'd struggle to pick. I'd be very tempted.
They'd be good stablemates. If you went out on a ride, both of those match really well. They're just different flavours of a very similar recipe.
Yeah, definitely. I've probably got a couple more videos to come on this because it's not going back for a while, and yeah, I do want to do some more riding with it and maybe some comparisons. But, you know, always like to hear what you guys think in the comments. If you've ridden both of these bikes, let me know which one you would pick or have picked, and also let me know why. I love to hear the rationale behind it. So yeah, leave me a comment down below, and if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.